here we are. We're in the main segment. We're going to be interviewing Dennis Williams the second. And then I couldn't forget that, And then Mr. Branden Wellington. Thank you guys so much for coming through today for the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us. All right. So we have your bios, but first we just want you guys to start off by telling the people, let us know your journey, a recap of your career in your own words.
Are we live or is this edited?
This is edited. This is edited, not live.
Can you fit that into 2 minutes?
You go first. Lead the way, Mr.
Oh man, I don't have much to say, but
what? Okay.
Nah,
lies.
You're playing now. All right.
I'm a filmmaker based in LA now, by way of New York, by way of Maryland. I met this beautiful, talented gentleman in New York. Beautiful, both inside and out. Absolutely. This guy has been a major part of my life. I started as a screenwriter. I still write. Writing is my first passion, but I also direct now as of the past 5 years, maybe. My main thing is hustle porn. That's what I call my style of cinema. It's Black Triumph is what I like to focus on.
Okay, love that.
Studied to be a playwright, moved to New York, started working in film. On the indie side, I've always been indie, and it's taught me all of the tools and tricks that I know. Most recently moved out here to LA to continue to help my projects flourish. Working on my first feature right now. All right. And here I am. So.
Okay. We love that.
Nice.
Perfect. And what about you, Mr. Branden?
Yeah, this is Branden Wellington. To sum my career up in 2 minutes is a little tough, and I actually want to thank God for that because that was the time I could have summed it up in 2 seconds.
Amen.
That's the word. Okay.
Shout out to Dennis as well. Very beautiful soul and a good person to have in your corner. Very talented. He brings stories to life, and I've been fortunate enough to actually work with him on a couple of projects. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. Also lived in Hollywood, Florida as a kid. Moved to New York City at the age of 18 on a poetry scholarship. God changed my life through the gift of poetry. It's always been the gift that kept giving and carrying me through new seasons of my life. Poetry, I would say it changed my life. I remember I put out my very first poetry video on YouTube called America in 4 Minutes. And the NBA found it, and they asked me to come write for them. And I did, and it gave me a career in sports to start. I went to school to study film and television acting. When I got out, I did a lot of independents and short films, and my career wasn't moving in the way that I wanted it to. I had got hit with a lot of personal tragedies around 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15. It was unbelievable. I lost a cousin of mine who just died at 20 years old unexpectedly. Then my grandfather, my grandmother, my brother had committed suicide. Then I lost a roommate, and I was going through a lot of personal tragedies at that time, and poetry really carried me through. And a couple years later, I was having a tough time just trying to love life. When you go through so many different things that are traumatic, you find it difficult to love life. But one of the gifts that I didn't know that I needed, it was a gift I didn't ask for, but it was a gift I needed. It was the gift of hosting. I got an opportunity to host for the New York Mets. I was the in-game host there for 5 years. And if you ever came out to the game, I interviewed fans, players on the Jumbotron and things like that as well. And for 5 years out of my life, I got paid to roll out of bed and simply be myself. And when people found value in that, it helped me learn to love myself because I started to see the world around me was loving me as well, too. And they weren't asking me to play a character. They wasn't asking me to do a voice. They were saying, be you. And that was infinitely valuable to me. It was the gift I didn't ask for, but it was the gift I needed. And through that, everything else started to fall into place. My acting career began to get back on track. I did a couple of co-star roles on Blue Bloods, Gotham, and Younger. Orange is the New Black passed me the ball, gave me my first recurring role. Started off doing season 1 as a co-star recurring, and they bumped me up to guest star recurring my second season. And that was a blessing in itself, and I met a couple of great people on there. I'm also a stand-up comedian as well. I started off doing that at first. I just now got back to the stage. So you'll see me out here on these LA stages trying to bring joy and smiles and laughter to people's faces, which is, a blessing in itself as well, too. I won an Emmy for writing poetry, I guess. That helps.
Right.
Can't forget that.
Amazing.
It was Suncoast Regional Emmy for a piece that I wrote for the Miami Heat Kids Day broadcast. And, it was just another notch in my belt along the poetry chain. And it's just, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. And, I think that will sum most of it up.
All right.
Nice.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all I hear is Black excellence. I love it.
Thank you.
I'm a fan. It's very clear that both of you guys have worked together. I know you guys have worked together on a show called Payroll, which I think came out in 2018. And it's clear that you guys have like a really awesome working relationship and bond. Wondering what you guys have learned from each other in terms of seeing each other grow through each career, but also how you guys worked with each other on set.
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Dennis is a very...
What have you learned? Yeah, what have you learned from Dennis?
Me?
Working with him. Yeah.
Dennis showed me that there is... Art by community is probably one of the best ways to go. You know, what I love the most about Dennis is he's a phenomenal writer and storyteller, but what he does well on set is he's an egoless writer, egoless director, and he trusts the people who he employed to be on his projects to also have creative input when they're doing things that may or may not feel or sound natural to them from an acting standpoint. He said, well, what sounds natural to you? Is there something else you could do or say that will keep it within the same vein of what it is, the idea I'm trying to convey, that will also allow you to be yourself as well too? What do you think? What do you say? And it's very interesting being around people like that too, because they also reaffirm the creative genius that may lie inside of you as well too, and they open it, they unlock the box and ask for it to come out. And so Dennis is a very collaborative person to work with, and it makes work fun. It makes you feel like you're valuable too, beyond just one skill set, but all the other ideas you may have as well too. He'll listen.
Okay. What about you?
I don't know how to follow that one up. I think Branden takes every universe very seriously, right? So he's going to question everything in the most positive way. Where is this character at? Most importantly, what's their backstory before they got here? Is a conversation that he's always going to have with you. I said I didn't have anything to promote, but something that we are doing next is, so last year we did a film called A Balcony in Brooklyn, we meaning Campsite, a production company that was about a party, an underground party at the height of quarantine. So we did a sequel to that recently. It's called A Backyard in Baldwin. Branden is a part of that.
Congrats.
Yeah, Dennis always calls me. My relationship with Dennis is break emergency box just in case. I've never been called out right to just pull up. It's always been break glass case.
Oh man, it's always like that. Okay.
Dennis has only employed me when another actor has dropped out.
Oh man,
no.
that he is.
I'm somewhat sad. What do you have to say about that?
What I have to say is he's busy. He's busy. I didn't know if this guy.
Good answer. Good answer.
There we go.
No, it's
Good
the truth.
save.
Don't try to
I don't know if this
sweeten
guy is in Canada, San Francisco, Mexico. There's a lot that didn't fit into how he got here.
That is very fair. That's fair.
Exactly.
That's a fair answer.
Come on now, you got to give it to him.
That's fair.
Exactly.
But what we need Dennis to get to is understanding that, yeah, I may be busy, but my schedule is changeable for you.
See.
There we go. Yeah.
See?
And I respect
It's
that.
on the record. It's on the record.
There you go.
More to it. But nah, this guy has held me down in the toughest of situations, right? And he gets to set. I call him maybe 3 hours before. And he changed his entire day plans. And then he is one of the most prepared in his scene. He has the second scene of the day. And the first question to me is, why does he say this, or what's his perspective, or really trying to learn his character in the moment. And I respect that level of method acting. I don't think that I could ever. That's just an art form that I can never put myself in that seat, in those shoes. So Branden takes every universe seriously, let alone every character seriously, and it's just inspirational to be around.
See, I don't like when you say you can't do something, because I actually think that you can, because you've proven to yourself that if you put yourself in any type of environment, you can adapt and grow from it. But maybe you haven't really thrust yourself into that to have to do it. But if you had to, you could.
I'm more M. Night Shyamalan. Like I'll take something out the vending machine to keep it moving.
I just saw his recent movie.
I'm not like.
What did you think?
It was amazing.
It was good.
I saw
Amazing.
it.
You're the first person I've heard say that.
Well, a lot of people are very difficult to please because we live in such a critical world. You know what's crazy?
Yeah.
All right, so
What's the movie about?
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So the movie is called Old. It stars one of my good friends, Alex Wolff. He played in Jumanji with Sedaris.
Okay.
But in a nutshell, without spoiling anything for anyone who hasn't seen it, Old is really about appreciating the moments that you have right now. because time is such an illusion. My friend who drove me here today, Cory Webb, great comedian and actor as well too. We were having a big conversation about when you think you have more time and how you handle life when you think you have more time. Old, in a sense, kind of flips that idea on its head, and it pulls time away from you, and it allows and the characters in there start to figure out what do they do with these moments that they have, because they may or may not have more. And so, and life to a degree is the same way. Like, I don't want to make this morbid or nothing like that, but we all got plans for the weekend. You know what I'm saying? Do the weekends have plans for us? And so that is the real question, right? That's a crazy, that's a crazy pertinent question that we always must be aware of. And so when we think about that, right, these moments become important because I don't know how much time I have. None of us do. But what's beautiful is that we chose to use these moments that we have, which are so precious, and share them with each other, uplift each other, share stories and things like that could go well beyond our time here. And I think Old, in a sense, the next M. Night Shyamalan movie, in a sense, kind of brings time into perspective and about what will you do with those moments that you have.
You are literally the most positive person I know, because no one else will get that from M. Night Shyamalan. Not even him.
I heard a quote. It says that if you think twice, you'll be one of the smartest people in the world.
Okay.
Well, amen.
Most people don't do that. They got one opinion and they don't even question that.
All right. That's true. Okay, so as creators, who would you guys say are your biggest inspirations, or were your biggest inspirations coming up and getting into creating?
In what realm? I think
he's exactly like I told you he is, isn't he?
I think we all have different influences. Like, okay, well, who influences you as a director or as a writer, as a person?
No. That is a valid question, for sure.
Yeah.
As a director, as a writer, do those two.
Dennis, you're a director.
You direct.
I've directed like my own videos, when I was doing poetry. Okay.
That's still directing.
Yeah.
So I've only directed poetry videos then in that case. And in that essence, I would say from a spoken word standpoint, I like Sully Breaks and Jefferson Bethke. They've influenced my style of poetry, because when we were coming up doing poetry, it became kind of big. How old is YouTube? When did it come out?
YouTube?
Yeah.
2009.
9?
It got bought by Google in 2009.
Right. So YouTube kind of became
years before that.
Big around 2010. I put my first piece out on YouTube in 2012. At that time, video poetry wasn't really the thing like that. And so there was really only a few people in that space doing it before it kind of got really big and commercialized. And so you would have to try to find people in that niche that were already getting the train rolling. And these guys were ahead of the curve, and I would watch what they do, and they inspired me. I'm like, maybe this is a good idea to go about how to film these videos. And these became a staple to a point where I started doing these on a national level. I've written for USA Men's National Soccer Team. I've written for the NBA. And some of those same styles that were coming up off of YouTube in the early 2010, 2011, they made it all the way mainstream. So, and from that standpoint, hey, they influenced me as a director from a poetry standpoint. As a writer, I like Tupac Shakur and Langston Hughes.
Those are great poets.
They're great poets.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I love that. I'm going to go Spike and Hiro Murai, and both ends of that generational spectrum. Aaron Sorkin has been a big inspiration for me on the writing front. I have a theater background, so a lot of like my early stuff was like super dialogue heavy, and I had to like learn how to get in and out of scenes. I think Branden helped me with that a lot too. But I think Aaron Sorkin's like really good at tempo and pace in a way that I admire. So he's definitely been an inspiration for me in the writing standpoint.
And do you still write like plays now, or are you more sticking to scripts?
Film now, but I want to get back to plays.
Aren't you working on something?
I want to.
Or no? Are you working on anything in that vein, or what's your
on the play front? No, I've been watching stuff, but I haven't been writing any plays. I plan to get back to that next year, like the middle of next year.
That's good.
But there's some amazing plays out there right now that are doing really well.
What are some of your favorites right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Slave Play is killing it. And then he went on to he co-wrote Zola.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, that's doing very well.
Yeah. How'd you guys feel about that movie? Have you seen Zola?
No, I
haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Yeah.
What was it about? Give us a deep synopsis.
It's really just about life is short. So
See?
Wow, connected.
Just straight to the point.
No, so I was old
That's
the
the
other
theme
day.
of the night.
That was the first time I've been to the theater since before COVID.
Oh, so you went to the theater to see it.
I
Okay.
went to Alamo Drafthouse. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I've only been to 2 films like post-COVID, I believe.
Mm.
It did feel good getting back to the movie theaters, though, right?
Yeah,
Certain
that
films
great.
are really meant to be experienced in theaters. Everything is not meant for your home. I appreciate the fact that we do have like the HBO Plus and things going straight. You know, like you remember straight to DVD, we got straight to streaming. Some of these movies aren't meant for straight to streaming. They're really meant to be experienced in the theater, immerse yourself in that environment and the loud sound and a big screen where you feel as if it's taking over your imagination.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You have a different relationship at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You go to the movies, you prepared your mind to receive. At home, you have a different relationship at home. Home is a place of rest. It could be a place of work. It could be so many things. You watching a movie there, you don't experience it the way you do in the theater because you've made a conscious choice that this is going to be your singular focus. And so you feel it, see it, and experience it differently.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 1000%. Well, the one thing about both of you is that you guys kind of write and, well, in Dennis's case, write and direct in different genres. And of course, in Branden's case, acting in different genres. I wonder what approach do you guys take when you go into, if you're going into something that's more dramatic as opposed to something that's more comedic? How do you approach your writing from that standpoint? And your acting, I will say, for Branden.
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'd love to hear like your perspective on the acting front. For me, like directing and writing, I just try to live in that space for a while.
What do you mean by live in that space?
So,
come on, follow up. Sorry.
Dennis is vague. You got to ask him sometimes, man. He's cool vague.
Thank you for digging into him.
Okay.
Opening him up.
I mean, I try to just exist in it, right? And it's every time I have the opportunity to make a decision to be in that environment, and I can get more specific about certain projects, I will make that choice until I feel like I'm comfortable to speak to that world and those characters. And then the next step to me would be like getting to an outline that I'm comfortable with, and then I can kind of just sprint on the story. And then that helps me on the directing front, obviously. One of the directors that I learned from pretty often is Stefan Bristol, who we worked with.
I love Stefan.
Payroll, right? Like one of the questions that he asked me when we're shooting Payroll is like, whose scene is this? Right. And it seems like a simple question, but it's like a heavy question on set, right? Like whose scene is this really? And in a lot of ways that's gonna direct your directorial decisions. And your camera plots and your blocking. But that begins in the pre-production process and how you prepare and how comfortable you feel in that world, right? So that you can get lost in it, right? So I wrote a movie about ego death recently. And this is about 2 Black men intentionally going to a trip in Joshua Tree to kill their ego, right? A mushroom-induced like night in Joshua Tree. Right? Like, how did they get there? Like, I interviewed so many people. Like, I really, like, just existed in that for a while until I felt like I would understand that process. And for me, and I had fun with that because that is, like, an individual, like, experience as well. Right? Like, like, me learning that process to me even opens my eyes as a person, as a man. So I don't just see it as, like, a process for work.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I love that you said that. Whose scene is this? That's Stefan taught you that?
Yeah.
That's honestly a really good perspective to start seeing scenes. Like that's a good question to ask. You know, I'm going to start asking that when I read scripts now. Like, hey, whose scene is this? Because even if you think about it from a director standpoint, like, yeah, that would probably change the way you edit things too. But then if you say you start to write things and you ask like, whose scene is this? And as you go to write it, it's like, okay, I can make sure that it's tailored specific for this particular person. Because I think sometimes what happens, right, when you're telling a story, you're thinking about every character in it and how all of the stories weave together to make this particular scene work the way that it does and fit in the place that it fits. But then that's really not why when we watch movies, we tend to attach ourselves to one particular person who we feel is similar in arc to our own lives. And so when we go to watch scenes and things too, our eyes are primarily focused in how this relates to our own life and how does this come back to us. But then when we start asking ourselves, like, whose scene is it? It kind of takes us out of ourselves and allows us to see it from a space of someone else. And now, not that I don't, maybe I do this naturally, I don't know, but now I want to think about it even more intentionally when I go to watch movies or when I go to write stuff. I'm like, whose scene is this?
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship, if you're in the scene, it's your girl's scene. Just know that, fellas. If y'all listening, whose scene is her scene? Just know that.
Always.
You play the tambourine, yo.
Is that how you approach it with your acting in terms of going through drama or comedy?
No. So this is why I asked you, what do you mean by live in that space? Maybe you and I are kind of saying the same thing, but differently. So there's a saying, right? It says that there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything has been done before. Okay. Well, that would mean that whatever you're attempting to do, there's a matching or corresponding energy out there or some historical record of what you may have done before. I call that the ether. It's a space of creative space. So I think whenever I go to write comedy, I immerse myself with comedians. I get into that ether because people who are doing funny things or comedic things, they're tapped into something that allows them to be lighthearted, funny, comedic, or whatever the case. And then when you're in that stratosphere or in that energy or in that vein, it comes out of you naturally. It's the same way how, like, if you were to hang in a room full of people, let's say they were predominantly negative or pessimistic, you eventually start thinking about some of your own problems too. You'd be like, well, damn, maybe it might be short a little bit this month. Everybody here seems. You start thinking about stuff because that ether is dominating the space. So the ideas that permeate that main energy starts to permeate your mind too. So when I start writing comedy, I watch a lot of comedy so that I'm tapping into the same ether as other people. When I'm doing drama, I do the same thing. When I go to write a poetry piece, before I write any piece for whoever contracts me, I just sit down and I go and I watch endless amounts of spoken word videos. I might go to coffee shops. I want to get in that ether because if I can tap into that creative space, I know that those ideas and thoughts will come to me as well too. Same way how negative thoughts come to you in negative environments. Creative thoughts come to you in creative environments. And if you get even more specific, you can find a match for the creativity that you're looking to embody.
Right.
All right.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Right.
It makes sense.
Absolutely.
It definitely makes sense.
Yeah. 100%.
So getting more so into kind of your journeys as creatives, what would you say would be the most, like the best piece of advice you've ever received that really sticks in your mind that you always think about? And then going from there, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give to somebody else as creatives?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Okay. And
that is the energy that I try to embody in everything that I do. Be fearlessly you. You are valuable. Who you are naturally that you bring into the space is of value. You are one of one. You're not one of a million. You're one of one. We're all uniquely designed. And to be one of one is valuable. Yeah. It's very valuable. If there was only one of these tables, this table, in essence, will be the most valuable table it could be because it's only one of it. And you as a person, you're only one. So I would think get over fear, tackle the things that you need to, and you can walk into any space knowing that you have value. Now, some people could be trash, but they may not. But they may not. But they could be value. They're just in the wrong place. So, but you gotta find.
Nice way to put it.
Listen, you gotta find your essence. There's a thing, right? They say there's a thing called the law of location. We're gonna get to this. I promise I'll let you say some stuff too.
Who said this?
There's a his actual name is Mike Murdoch. All right, so the law of location, right? It says that everything has a location, right? If you take a fish out of the water and you put it on land, it flops around. It just looks stupid. It just blah, 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 blah. It's like it don't belong there. But if you pick his ass up and you throw him back in the water, he swims better than Michael Phelps, okay? Because he belongs in the water. That's where he's supposed to be. All right. Birds are great in the sky. They don't do well on the 101. All right. That's not a place for them. So they have a location as well, too. You have a location. We all do. So when you're in a place that you were meant to be, you thrive better. Your excellence comes out better. So even if there's some people we be like, oh, that person trash. No, they're probably just in the wrong location because they haven't found where they need to be for their genius to be shined, for their genius to shine. So
perspective.
Right. So when it comes down to it from a creative space, be fearless. Walk into the spaces that you know you're meant to be in. You do bring value and take that damn shot. Because if you don't, you're going to miss it anyway.
There you go. All right.
Agreed.
But what about you, Dennis?
Mr. Williams.
I mean, that's a
Junior, JR, period.
Lesson 1, don't tell Branden anything. That's a good question. I mean, I have to say, I have to agree with you. Like, whether you think that you can or you think that you can't, you're right. I think is a lesson that we all should continue to learn what that means for us. But you know, as cliche as it is, like, continue to be a student of the game, I think is also just as important. I think like really early on, I had to grow up really early when I was young. And I thought that I knew a lot. I knew a lot, but I thought that I knew a lot more than I knew. And I think a lot of times that kind of like stopped me from continuing to perfect my craft and learn from the experiences around me. So like even when I'm on set now, I think there's just so much room for a script to grow. I remember when I was on set 5 years ago and I couldn't rewrite like a scene because I just thought that what I had printed out on paper was just it was locked, you know?
Yeah.
But now like those things are fluid, like, you know?
Yeah.
And I know it can be adapted for the moment, and those things are going to change.
How'd you get to that realization?
Probably a lot of losses, honestly. Like, probably a lot of losses. Yeah. And then I think just the people that I've met, I think you're going to meet people in the randomness of places that are going to teach you lessons that they won't even know how it would apply to your life, you know, but you will, right? So I think I've just been like back to the ego thing. There are like ego death surfaces itself like 10 times a day in like your normal interactions, right? You have a choice to like choose ego or to not in anything, right?
Yeah.
That could be a conversation with your manager, with a new client, with a script supervisor, with a PA, whatever that might be.
Right.
So with that said, like in the times where you don't choose ego, you could learn something that could just, you know, really close the loop on something else that you have been wondering about or have been broken about or have been trying to figure out in your own life. And I think I've had enough of those instances where I've learned in like just the randomest corners of life that I think I've tried to open my eyes a little bit more just to, as I get better, to be even more of a student of my craft. So
that's dope. Going back to what you said about, it seems like learning from the losses, and I'll present this to both of you, but in this industry, there's a lot of rejection, you know, and I think a lot of writers, actors get very disheartened through that journey, but it seems like you've learned from that. And I'm wondering how you did that and what advice you would give to those creatives kind of still going through that journey and still hitting those rejections and hitting those walls to get pushed past those, like what you would say to them.
Listen to me, hear me clearly. There's no such thing as rejection. It is called redirection. All right. Yeah. All right. I've never got rejected. I've only got redirected to where I was supposed to be.
He's amazing with that.
That was great. Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
Perspective.
I'll get a no and be like, damn. What's going on?
Nah, one no leads you closer to your next yes. It's interesting, right? So my good friend Cory, he just drove me here. So here's the thing, right? Here's the funniest thing. So I moved out here, right? So COVID shut down the whole entire world. So I hadn't really been on a set in a while. And because of that, I just been at home writing. And then he comes through, he's like, hey, you know, will you help me, you know, hear what I'm working on and see if there's something, you know, maybe you can help me rewrite some stuff. So we end up start rewriting some comedy bits and things like this. And then he's like, hey, you know, you got a little bit of time and stuff like that, and your stuff is good. You should get back up there again. So I get up back there, I start killing the stage. But this all came from not necessarily, from maybe, I guess, hearing some no's throughout the year that left my schedule wide open. Because if I had some yeses, I probably would have been on set. And then I started rediscovering the power of actually being up there telling my own stories and bringing joy to people's face. So maybe those no's were redirections to something else. Or there was a time, I was telling him earlier, there was a time, right? I was up for this job at Fuse Network. I swear I was like, I want to be a VJ. I know a lot of people in music. This will serve me and the people that I know. And I just did not get this thing. I was distraught. And then, so that was distraught. So my agent was like, yo, that thing is gone. But, what do you think about baseball? I was like, I don't want to talk about baseball right now, man. I want this job. So then the Mets, they wanted to work with me, but I really was on the fence about even going in that direction because I wanted to do something else. But I was like, all right, at least let me hear them out. I heard them out, changed my life. Next thing I know, I'm giving an opening speech to the 2015 World Series. And it was then that place where somebody met me and said, hey, aren't you still acting? I was like, man, my schedule's full, but I definitely got time for it in the morning. I'm going to introduce you to a manager. I was like, okay, cool. But if I wasn't in that arena that day, I probably wouldn't have met the guy who was, he worked in administration at my school. His name was Steve Cheney. He came and he loved me. He's like, yo, I'm going to come to a game, so I'll get you tickets. And he's like, you have so much talent. I'm going to introduce you to somebody. Introduce me to my manager. And then, 4 acting jobs later, I'm Orange is the New Black. But had I been at Fuse, probably not. So like that rejection isn't real. It's only redirection. And if you can just try not to take a no personal, rejection personal, and just see it as, is it moving you closer to where you need to be? Every no leads you closer to the right yes.
There we go.
I'm gonna need to rub more crystals to get to that point, but thank you so much. That was,
I mean, that's
perfect.
Yeah. I think Brandon's big on like the pre-work before the no, though. Like, and that's a lot of that's like outside of our craft, just us like as individuals. Because I'm just remembering now, you got me on the affirmations.
Oh yeah, we talked about that for a minute. Right. Yeah.
But like affirmations where you record yourself, like to the point where you fall asleep to them at night, so that they've tapped into your subconscious. Yeah, that level of like
next level.
Yeah, that level. You gotta give them the secrets. Well, I'm the second, so you're the affirmation guy. Yeah,
that's a whole other conversation.
That's true. That's true. The no's and the losses will lead you in your purpose. I don't even know if I have anything to add to that. I think that's a great point.
I got a period. I got to drop mic. I got to drop mic.
You did. I'm
just messing with you.
You got nothing to say. Okay, so let's do some manifestation right now. What are some future goals that you guys are looking for? So when you look back at your career, what are some things that you want to see there? Some achievements, some accomplishments.
That's my co-host.
It's interesting that you say that, because I tell people a long time ago, I stopped setting goals. They're like, what do you mean you stopped setting goals? I was like, well, I think the thing about goals is, okay, obviously there's things you want to accomplish and you have a certain time frame in which you want to accomplish them. That would be considered a goal. Right. But let's say hypothetically you're doing something that's a vocation for life. And let's say, you know what, my goal is, if you make a goal something, I don't set goals anymore. I think what I do is I get in the vein of what I feel brings me joy. And I guess you could say my goal is to do the things which consistently bring me joy, that allows me to bring joy to others. And so if today that's writing, then that's writing, without necessarily having things attached to a specific outcome. Because what happens is we become prisoners to outcomes and not necessarily prisoners to process. And so for me, staying in the process is the most important thing, because, shooters shoot, actors act, writers write, directors direct. And you don't need a network for that. You do not need a court for that. You don't need a team for that. Someone said it, George Carlin, he's a famous comedian, passed away some years ago. He said, he's like, I hate the commercialization of sports. If all of the agents, managers, and fans and arenas went away, you know what would happen? He said, these guys, they would just go shoot around in the neighborhood, because they're ballers. That's what they would do. They don't need all these other things. But if you say, my life in basketball is only attached to making it to the NBA, and then you say, I didn't reach my goal. Am I a failure? No. Right. It is if you attached it to an outcome. But if you attach it to a process, say, I'm gonna shoot this ball regardless, then you still find joy in doing the things that make you happy without necessarily needing to see a specific outcome to do those things.
Right.
So I would say we got to become prisoners of process. And so what I do is I try to figure out what it is I can do every single day that will keep me in the flow of what it is that I'd like to do. And then understanding that my process yields results on its own, because that's what happens, right? If you're a scientist or you're formulating the medicine, you're in the process of creating creating medicines that you're in the process of creating medicines. And if the outcome doesn't come out the way that you do, you go back and you just keep tinkering it till eventually it produces what you need. And if you have a system, you build systems and not necessarily goals. System stands for save yourself time, energy, and money. So I would tell my friends, we were coming up, we was like, yo, if you want to be an actor, you got to do these two things successfully. You got to submit, audition, and repeat the process. You got to do three things. You got to submit, audition, repeat. Okay. Submit, audition, repeat. Submit, audition, repeat. I've been doing that since 2009. Eventually you book. But if you stop that process, you don't get that outcome. Now, if that outcome isn't yielding what you want, then now you start tinkering the things inside that process. All right, maybe submit somewhere else, audition differently, repeat the process. Submit, audition, repeat. Submit. That's how you become an actor. You submit, audition, repeat. That is the outcome of becoming one. Submit, audition, repeat. You do that long enough, I swear to you, book.
There we go. Another mic drop. All right.
Absolutely. I'm kind of on the same page where I think it was hurting my work and just my love for like what I do. And when I started thinking about like where these things are going to go. So I control what I can control, which is a process in itself. But like my goals are staying as present as I can in the process of like making what I want to make. That's to me a great place to be because I couldn't say that 3 years ago about where I was. I was thinking about, where is this going to exist? Is it even worth my time? Is it's going to like manifest and go to this network or whatnot? Will this person see it or things like that? And when I'm just kind of heads down and doing my best work for myself and becoming better, building a better network, like actively working on the things that are in front of me that I can put my hands on and like control, then even what I thought something could become, like it will be more than that. Like I can't even fathom what the return is going to be. And
you probably give off a different energy when you walk in the rooms, not necessarily looking for outcomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, I'm in here because I want an outcome. Nobody wants you. Don't come to my house if you need an outcome, man. Come here because you want to have a good time today. You know what I mean? Like I can't deal with people where everything's attached to an outcome. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like even relationships, show up to give, show up to love. You do that long enough. If two people are doing that long enough, I promise you whatever outcome you're looking for probably going to come from that.
Yep.
Right.
There we go.
Wow. That's dope. Yeah. So I think y'all already answered this question, but like, what kind of legacy do you both want to leave behind? Clearly it's going to be rooted in purpose.
Nepotism should be the goal of every society.
Amen.
All right. When you get up out of here, somebody should still be able to say your dead ass name and things could happen.
I know that's right.
Hey, it worked for Rockefellers.
Yeah.
Kennedys, Bushes.
Carnegie.
Why not you? Carnegie's. Nepotism should be the goal of every society. Why you say that? Because that means if you're doing your best, then damn it, your name is so good that even when you're not in here, people are like, I want to be attached to that name. You know, So nepotism. That's the legacy.
There we
I want my name to ring bells when I don't breathe air.
Okay, it's the first time I heard that one, but it's good.
Yes. What about you?
Legacy. Legacy. As Hope would say.
All right,
I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I know that I want to leave a legacy. I couldn't tell you what it's going to be. I know what I'm focused on doing though. But I'd be interested to see how people describe it when it's said and done.
Okay, so you just
nice.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm being partially facetious when I say that too. By the way, I'll give you a quote. Jackie Robinson.
Jackie gonna give us a quote.
Of course, sir. Jackie Robinson. It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite quotes. I actually said this in my Miami speech, but I used to see it every single day when I walked into Citi Field. I was wrapped around the Jackie Robinson rotunda. But this quote that wrapped the atrium. It said that a life is not important except for the impact that it has on other lives. A life in itself is not important except for in the impact it has on other lives.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's powerful. So what is a legacy? I guess a legacy is leaving an impact on other people's lives.
Exactly.
And I agree with that.
Absolutely. I agree with that too.
Sometimes it doesn't have an adjective. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's 20.
Yeah.
Ashe and amen.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
easy.
I know you said earlier that you didn't have anything you want to plug, but if you do, this is the moment. If you also, any future projects or things that you want people to look out for.
Mm-hmm.
Clout is on Amazon Prime right now, so I would say go catch that.
Clout is an amazing short film. If you got
so
some
good.
time,
It's really
I don't
good.
care. Listen, you got time. It's 24 hours in a day. Go watch Clout.
Facts.
Please.
You got time. Ain't no if you got time, you got time.
Yeah.
You got time.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And it's worth the watch. It's worth the watch.
It is. Denzel Whitaker's great.
He crushes. He's amazing. A Backyard in Baldwin is coming soon. That hasn't been announced yet. I guess it's the first place we've announced it. That's a sequel
exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So it's a sequel to A Balcony in Brooklyn. So, keep your eyes open for that. That'll be coming soon.
Okay.
Boom.
What about you?
I got nothing going on. Thank you for this question. No, I'm just playing. So check it out, right? I booked the New Faces show. Today is July 28, 2021. I don't know when this is going to come out, but August 4th, Comedy Chateau. I will be there that night on stage at the New Faces showcase. Me, my boy Cory Webb is going to be there as well too. I do have some other projects that's coming out. I don't even know if I can say that yet. I can't.
I don't think you can say
that. I can't say that yet until like September. So yeah, I did something within the past couple of months that brought a lot of joy to me in my own personal bucket list. So I'm excited about that.
Okay.
But I just can't say what that is yet.
No, that's fine.
Hush.
Yeah, I don't even know if people be like, yo, that's huge. But to me, it is.
As long as it's huge to you, don't worry about it. Yeah.
But yeah, Comedy Chateau, August 4th, New Face Showcase. Your boy will be on stage. And it's going to be much more funnier than what I was doing today. Today we all about thought-provoking stuff.
I got a bucket list question for Branden.
Yeah,
talk to you. Two most talented or the most inspiring actors that you've
Jamie Foxx worked with?
Worked with.
Okay, that's different. That I've worked with.
Worked with.
Two most inspiring that I've worked with.
No favorites, just your own list.
From your experience.
That's a good question. I haven't really thought much about that. Ain't that crazy, y'all? If I worked with you in the past, don't take my silence as, oh, what about me? Most inspiring. You said most inspiring I've worked with?
No favorites.
No favorites.
Meaning they can't hate you when this list.
You know what? Okay. Natasha Lyonne was very inspiring to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Russian doll.
Yes. And that was part of it. So obviously I was a fan of Orange is the New Black before I was on it. And I just thought she was a great actress, and you've seen her in so many other things she was coming up to, like American Pie and all those things as well. But what I found interesting was that script that she had put together for Russian Doll. I got a chance to be at the table read for it before anyone knew what it was. But I was so inspired by how she had such a full career at that point. And then she wanted to take on something else, and so they got together and created their own production companies. I think it's called Animal Films, if I'm not mistaken. And they put together this great script, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, damn, this is really good. I didn't know it was going to be that good. I only read 3 episodes. I didn't know what the other 5 was going to bring, so I was looking forward to like everybody else. But how she was able to maneuver from just being so damn good in one thing and then showing that I'm damn good at something else within such a short span was like, you look at that and you're like, wow, like just because you're excelling at one thing, don't sell yourself short at trying to excel at another. And so what they was able to shoot from a writing standpoint, director standpoint, it was like, that shit was inspiring to me. And I was like, I need to be making sure I'm doing things too, and I'm still creating things too. Yeah, you might be great at one thing you've done, but can you be great at more things too?
Right.
Yeah.
I heard a quote that says, if you're great at one thing, people will believe you can be great at many things. This is the reason Michael Jordan got a steakhouse. Never cooked a day in his life, but he shot a basketball so well, he got people to invest in his steaks. I was like, yeah, I guess so, right?
You're in Russian, though.
Yeah, briefly. We
gonna be in season 2?
No. The thing is, we shot more scenes, but the scenes that I was in, there was just, I was talking to one of the directors about that, or even the editors, but there was just so much time spent in the bathroom in the first season. They were like, we had to cut some scenes. So I had like 2 scenes in there and stuff like that as well too. So it's going to be 2 episodes, I think like 3 and 4. Then end up doing like 1 scene, 1 episode. But I didn't really care. I was just happy to be there on the process. It was really about, it was her scene. Whose scene is it? Her scene. Whose story is her story? You know what I mean? And I was just happy to be there, man. Sometimes you gotta be Chris Paul, man. Throw that ball up there, let him dunk, man. And there's joy in the assist.
Absolutely.
That's a good quote.
Second person that inspired me that I've worked with. I gotta find it out.
I mean, that was a good enough answer. I'll take the one.
You take the one?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get one more. Hunter Emery.
Okay.
I actually worked with him on Orange is the New Black as well too. He played a CO officer. He was the one that was dating. I can't think of her character's name right now. But what I found inspiring about him, it wasn't necessarily just the what he was able to bring to the screen, but this is what I find fascinating about any creative that's still in the process of becoming. He was married. He had a kid as well too, and this dude got up every single day. And he also was working a job at the same time while he was doing Orange is the New Black. And I remember he was like, yo, pop out my bar sometimes. I was like, bro, you still bartending? He's like, yeah, man. Fuck, I got family. I was like, yeah. You right. It's different. I'm a single, you know what I mean? So I ain't no kids and wife and nothing like that. So my responsibility is a little bit different. But then when I see somebody show up to work and they kill it, they go home, then they kill it. It's like, yo, this dude's being super active, super dad, and still working on other stuff at the same time. That shit inspired me. And it reminded me, you know what, stay humble and continue to move forward. And just seeing how good he was as a dad to his kid. And I got to meet him like one of our last days on set. That was inspiring to me too, because it showed that, you know what, in this game you could be a dad, you could be a dad, a husband, and a bomb ass actor, and still be a cool ass person that people want to be around and kick it with and stuff too. Because he was that for me. So I just found his whole aura and who he was as a being in person just inspiring.
Amazing guy.
Yeah, give me something to look forward to. I was like, I'm gonna be a dad one day and an actor and a husband. So I had to figure out how to do all of it well, like you're doing.
That's good.
Yes.
All right. So just in terms of time, do you have any more questions, Miss Judith?
Ask us anything.
All the mics were dropped in this whole interview for sure.
Thank you guys for having this. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming through. It was great.
Yeah, you guys were great.
Yeah, let's play We're Not Really Strangers next time and then just start pulling out random questions.
I have that.
You got it?
I have that game, yeah.
What you think about it?
It's cool. It's cool.
Hey, if we replace that game with a person, I was like, yo, what do you think about him? He cool.
I wouldn't
you
say the same
you don't really like him.
It's cool. Yeah, cool. But yeah, I like that game. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming through. This was great. It was very thought-provoking, which was good. I love conversations like this. I think we need to think a lot more these days. So yeah.
Yes.
Hey, if you think twice, you'll be one of the smartest people on earth.
There we go.
Yes. Where can people find you on the social, or where do you want people to find you on social media and stuff?
I'm at B_Wellington on every platform.
Okay.
I'm at Menace2 Dennis. Menace2 Dennis.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So thank you so much, Dennis Williams II. And Mr. Branden Wellington. We had such a great time.
You guys were so good.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you guys.
All right. You clap us out.
And cut. Yeah.
All right. Cool.